As an insurance agency owner, I have worked with and trained hundreds of final expense life insurance agents. In this video, I'm going to expose the truth as to why top producers earn so much more money than like your typical average life insurance agent will ever make, really. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to get the new agent kit, which has several pieces of sales material that you're absolutely going to want to use when making your final expense sales presentation. There are 5 things that top producers do and all have in common. Number 1, they tend to be very smooth and professional sounding throughout their final expense presentation. The key to a professional sales presentation is to never get rattled by anything that the prospect says or does, and to be the calm during the storm. That's the only way to describe it. Meanwhile, whether you have all the answers or not, to stay in control and appear to have an answer to everything. Number 2, the top producers that I work with generally have a much higher advertising budget than your average agent. In most cases, they're spending around $2,000 each week to generate these high intent leads and appointments of people who expect to hear from them about getting a quote for affordable life insurance. Real quick, guys, I would love to hear from you below in the comments. What is the most you've ever spent on leads, and what was your return on investment? Did it work out? Back maybe 5 or 6 years ago, when I was personally producing at a very high level, it was normal to spend a couple $1,000s each week on leads. And when I connected with and associated with other top producers, that was always the one thing that most of us had in common. You gotta pay to play. And guys, just hold on a second. If this sounds like a lot, understand I did not get into the life insurance business to make like $50,000 per year. I made over $250,000 in my very first calendar year, 100% profit after all costs, selling final expense insurance. Again, this video is about my experience working with both top producers and the typical average insurance agent. Number 3, work ethic. Every now and then I get an agent who says, I don't know, something like, "Hey Doug, I really need to make like $3,000 profit each week." What I'll actually do is show them exactly what they're gonna need to do for that to happen. This is the crazy thing. Like 9 out of 10 of those agents, that say something like that or expect to earn like a couple $100,000 per year, believe it or not, they will not even do the work that it takes to earn that kind of money. So the bottom line is this, long story longer, you can have all the goals in the world, but if you don't step up, make the necessary sacrifices and do the actual work, instead of being a top earner, you'll most likely just fall flat on your face. Number 4, top producers understand that most buyers are gonna make objections. Think about it. Buyers make objections. Potentially multiple objections during the sales presentation. Probably the biggest difference that I see between our top producers versus our more average agents is how they perceive and deal with the objections. One of the most important things that I teach agents is to view objections as simply part of the process. When you give the price and the client says, "Okay, great, well, I need to speak with my kids first," or "I'm gonna need some time to think about it, is that okay?" If you see this as a stumbling block, then it absolutely will be a stumbling block. But when you use that objection as an opportunity to get back into the product presentation and share more information on the carrier, the riders, the guarantees of whole life insurance, and you do it in a way that is simply part of the sales process, it can actually help you to build rapport and even give the client more reasons to trust you, and therefore get the application process started now instead of later. Top producers usually have a system ready to overcome all objections, and instead of seeing the objection as a negative, they use it to build value in the product they're selling, to build more rapport, and then they'll point out that the client isn't going to have to make a payment today. Then they'll go back and redo the close. Basically, top producers work on themselves constantly. They're always trying to grow and better themselves. They study sales closing techniques and tend to do everything possible to, well, master the art of influence and persuasion. Number 5 is all about follow-up and building relationships with the client. One of the biggest fails that I see, like our typical average life insurance agents do, is they'll close the sale, the client gets a policy from the agent, and in most cases, the client never even hears from the agent again. This is a great way to go from being like an average agent to ending up in debt. And believe it or not, most agents that don't have a system where they're following up with each and every client will actually end up in debt. Guys, at a minimum, minimum. Lose clients that they would have retained had they simply followed up with something as silly as a thank you card and maybe like a happy birthday phone call or even text like once a year. Top producers will most likely do more. They'll keep the relationship going, and then potentially later on, they'll reach back out to that client to sell them more insurance or cross-sell, ACA or Medicare Advantage or maybe even Medicare supplements. Keep in mind, guys, Medicare Advantage pays a lifetime renewal and is a great way to earn your retirement money. So a lot of producers will sell final expense for that like upfront large cash roll. Meanwhile, the Medicare Advantage sales keep the money coming in over time and can actually, in most cases, end up being the larger long-term commissions money. For a copy of the new agent file that has sales materials that you're absolutely going to want to have for your final expense sales presentation, just email me at doug@ufesonline.com. If you'd like more information on our remote final expense sales platform, the one where you can get like 20 plus appointments per day, just shoot me an email at that same address. As always, when you put the needs of your clients first, everything else will usually fall right into place. Now get out there and do something good for someone today, will ya? Happy hunting.